Yeah, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks
It's
for
a
having me, man.
long time coming. Um, I was thinking last night just about doing the podcast with you today, and it's funny because we spent an exorbitant amount of time together between the gym and then also getting tattooed,
That's true.
or you tattooing Katie
Yeah.
and me hanging
Yeah.
out bothering you guys.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we talked about a lot of things, but usually one of us is blacking out
Oh, that's
while
true.
we're hanging
Yeah,
out, and
yeah,
so a lot of the
that's
stuff we
true.
talk about is really interesting for me, but as far as my memory goes, I'm like, "I don't know, man, I have no idea what we ever talk
Talk
about
about everything.
whatsoever," because, I'm usually or you're not usually there all the
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
and it's just kind of a distraction thing, but no, it's been really fun getting to know you over the years. You just had 10-year anniversary,
mhm.
the copper plate.
This month is our 12 years training together
Damn,
also. Yeah,
yeah.
I know, right?
That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
And a lot of the newer people over the last X amount of years that have been shadowing here to be a trainer,
mhm.
they have to go through their whole process, and it's so crazy to explain it to them because I try to tell them before they shadow a person, like, hey, this is how long we've trained together. This is like sort of what the person is working on, and then whenever I tell them how long we trained together, it always seems like it's 5 or 4 or 3 or something like that,
Yeah,
and then,
yeah,
when the person I'm training or I actually remember right, I'll tell them, and they're just like they ask me, "Really? That's really
yeah,
how long you guys have
really?
trained
Yeah.
together?"
I mean, I forget too. I'm like and I was, considering both of our 10-year anniversaries this year, and then I'm
Yeah.
like and then more years than that we've been training together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think what it is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we set out to do something, then it just sort of that's what we're doing,
yep.
so we kinda just get lost in the work of it,
Yeah,
and trying to just go through every step. You just don't really realize how far you're into it, how long you've been doing it,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
which I think's a really good thing.
I agree. That's anytime I've approaching anything difficult, fixating on the steps and then general awareness of the goal,
Yeah.
and the goals to I'm can't imagine a time in my life where I won't know you. So like
Yeah,
my goal
yeah,
is
yeah.
to,
Oh, for sure.
not die and keep
Yeah.
doing this
No, I think
forever.
if
So
anything, we're just sinking our claws in deeper,
yeah, I agree.
every week, month, year that
Hmm.
goes by. And now, Jonathan, Katie are in the mix, and
Yeah,
that's like
yeah,
another element of our friendship, which
yeah.
is awesome.
It is awesome.
And it's similar trajectory, like the
Yeah.
time frame our businesses started, time frame we're both getting married or having
Hmm.
married or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah. And I think you've been training around the same time I've been tattooing. I'm 18 years this year. I've been tattooing,
yeah, I think
and then
roughly. You might have me
some
be a little on
something
that,
like that. Yeah.
but either way, it's a long ass time
Yeah,
for not
yeah.
being super old
Right.
either,
Yeah.
Not that we're young, but we're not
Right. We're
that
not
old.
not that old. Yeah. But yeah, anytime I'm like telling people about you as a person, I'm like, yeah, he's like one of my best friends and my trainer. And we have like really parallel business lives. Like we've been through a lot of the same things, but also in very different
Yeah.
settings, opening our own businesses, making it through COVID, you
Yeah.
know,
That's true.
still owning a business 5 years after COVID,
That's very
10
true.
years total is pretty cool.
Yeah, and as far as your guys' anniversary goes, I mean, I remember well, so I originally was introduced to you through a buddy of mine, um, and it was I think I had gotten a tattoo that had never gotten finished.
Mhm. I remember
So
exactly what it was like, but I want to hear how you remember it first.
well, so I remember going to the shop that you were working at the time, and I think that's where I originally met you, I
Yep.
believe, right?
Hmm.
It
Yep.
wasn't I don't think we were training
Nope.
first, that was
Nope.
um, and so I had this, tattoo, I think it was my chest piece that, a guy had started in my hometown, and I moved up to Chicago, and, you don't have a lot of money when you live here, so you kinda just put it off, and then I just got busy, didn't get it done, and then, eventually, I think I told my friend, I was like, "Yo, I want to get this done," and he's like, "Go see Caroline." So that's when I met you at the shop, and I I know we've had this discussion a couple times about sort of my delivery or my demeanor, which I totally believe you, but it took me a long time to even realize that that was how I was at the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but anyways, I approached you, right, about
Uh-huh.
getting my tattoo finished, and
Yep.
what was the,
Well, he
um
he brought you in, and we had now that I know this about you, I didn't know at the time, but you're just like straightforward. You're ready to work. You have shit to do. You're not going to be, there's no niceties. You were just like, this is what I want. cool. And I was like, I was like, I don't usually do that, but I don't usually finish somebody else's work. And I
Yeah.
was probably being kind of a dick about it myself, but I was like, no, I'd love to. Let's do it. And then you were like, all right, well, we'll see how you do with this one, and then maybe we'll work together again. I was like, cool. I was like, this guy's gonna be a dick, but he's a friend of a friend, and he seems cool, and so I was happy to do it.
What's funny about that is that when I hear you explain it that way, it reminds me of friends that I have that I don't like for those reasons.
Yeah,
The way they talk to people and the way
yeah,
they act,
yeah,
and I'm just like, well, they're my friend, man. I guess I'll just fucking deal with
yeah.
it. And then
Right,
when
right.
I hear that, I'm like, damn, man, I think I might somewhat be that person from time to time.
I wasn't like I don't remember being super bummed. I was more like, all right, I got to prepare for this guy to be kind of a dick, and I've got to make sure I do my job well. Like I got to get it together.
That's true. The part you said about you were kind of being a dick too is that I feel like to a degree that's sort of the job or personality of a tattoo artist. Like even if it's minimal, I'm not saying
Yeah,
that it should be the majority of your personality, but I
yeah,
think you sort of have a right to be like that because of the amount of BS that you might have dealt with from the beginning up
right.
to a certain point.
Yeah,
Now I'm sure your situation is very different with, the people that you work on. It's
for
like they're
sure.
essentially all of your friends, all my friends, family, and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that. But in the beginning, you have a lot of weird shit, a lot of weird people approach you about things, and
yeah.
people are probably not that nice to you either. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, it's also tattooing is permanent and you gotta go into it with confidence, but there's a fine
yeah,
line between confidence and ego. And so like even a few years starting out, like 2000, that was 2013. I started tattooing 2007. So like
yeah,
not as established then as I am now, but you gotta sort of puff up a little to be like,
yeah,
yeah, I've not been tattooing that long, but I know what I'm doing.
yeah,
So, and then that can sort of get a hold of you and make you, God complex and tattooers is such a thing. And so I'm trying to keep an eye on that, but just being like, oh
yeah,
yeah, I can handle that. I can handle that.
yeah,
But convincing your client that you know what you're doing, but without like,
yeah.
you know, being
Well,
too
it's kind of a
up
funny happy medium with that, right? Where like if you're not confident at all, then your work could suck really bad.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're overly confident, maybe your work's good, but no one wants to be around you,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or you
Yeah.
do X, Y, Z in life, and then ruin your career or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Like, so, being humble is one of the only ways to really learn. But
yeah,
then also you can't be like, oh man, I've learned what I learned from that last tattoo and I'm going to do it differently
yeah,
next time. But being like, you know, that's not the same as, want someone to hear, oh, I think you fucked my shit up. It's like,
yeah, totally,
it's like I'm evolving with each step, and
yeah,
I'd call it the same with any workout, it doesn't mean you hurt yourself just because you did something you didn't want to do or,
yeah,
any heading towards change doesn't mean that there's a detriment to what you're currently doing,
that's true. Well, and
maybe.
there's also cover ups and
Oh, man,
blast
yeah,
overs.
yeah, yeah, yep, that's, I'm good at cover-ups because I
Which
have
I
so
didn't
many
know
on my
about until well, I knew that, there's your basic cover up
yeah,
or whatever,
right,
but I did not really know to the extent of blasting over something until I
yeah,
got to know Farn and you
yeah,
really well. And that was when I realized I'm like, so you can just totally either mess it up or get a whole sleeve or something
yeah,
that you just change your mind on later and just completely go over it. As long as you're the right
yeah,
person, I'm
yeah,
assuming, I mean, I
right.
don't think anyone can,
Yeah,
probably
that's
just
yeah, blast
dabble with
overs,
that, but
right, like, large scale blast over cover-ups are a thing that aren't it's not super common in the world, more so now, but
yeah,
it's, a complicated thing that you gotta have somebody to trust for sure, but a
yeah.
big part of that is, like, I don't know, anytime somebody's like, "You're on your what?" Like, I'm on my 4th generation cover-up on my back, and it's like it's just a blast over at this point, it's just kinda like
Yeah, yeah,
layering on layering, and it just doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
I get what you want, like, I
yeah,
really love what I have now, and it's just
yeah,
on
yeah,
top of other things that are 10 plus years old, so it's still very clear and sharp, and you can see it great. It's kinda like,
yeah.
layering stickers on a surface,
Yeah,
you
I was just
know?
gonna mention that was where
Yeah,
my brain was going with it,
yeah,
is like, you have now, like, depending on how you do it, but you have a background to your tattoo. If it's
exactly.
not a complete
Yeah,
blast over, you have, like, a layer to show, and that's how yours is
yeah,
now from what I remember to a
mhm.
degree.
Yep, I'm fully covered, so it's like, I always just say, "It's just wallpaper, don't worry about it." Everybody's
Yeah,
like, "What does it mean?" I'm like, "It's just wallpaper, don't even think about it." So,
yeah, and Nick from Great Lakes
mhm.
just did your most recent one, right?
Yeah, yes, yep.
And
That
it
was,
is giant.
it is giant. It's the largest single thing I have on my person, which I'm excited about, like, is another reason I wanted to do it. It's
Yeah.
a crawling panther from my shoulder to my butt, and, I was pretty nervous going into it just because like, Nick and Great Lakes are a big deal, and they're really good people, and I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I, you know, didn't bitch out about it. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, "I
Yeah.
really want these people to think I'm cool, and I really want this cool thing on my person." So,
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself for doing it, but it's gonna be a little while before I sit through anything like that.
Yeah. I don't blame
It
you.
was 4 hours, 4 hours, which is a quick amount of time for something that big,
Yeah.
and, if you imagine, like, an average shading needle is, like, 7 to 9, like, that's the number of pins in the needle, and he used a 25, so that's like a chisel tip Sharpie
Jesus Christ.
instead of, like, a, regular size Sharpie, and it was, like, it was cool, like, I mean,
Yeah.
it was fucking terrible, but it
Yeah.
was, like, really great to watch someone of that experience, and, um,
Like on a
you
very
know
personal level.
yeah, yeah, I'd be like, "Well, this is what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna get one-on-one." That's how most of my tattooing education has happened, is watching the pros do what they do on my body, so, like, you
It's a good way to learn.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? You can see the whole process, not just the
yeah,
outcome of it.
and I'm sure you've gone through that too with, you train with people you wanna learn from
Oh
and
yeah.
been in gyms that,
Yeah, I've been really lucky. I mean, from the beginning, with just the right person hiring me, because he, wanted to give me a chance when he
yeah,
didn't, when he probably shouldn't have.
yeah,
Not like, not
yeah,
like, like he was like, this isn't really the right fit,
yeah,
but
mm,
let's see how you do for 90 days, like that kind of shit,
yeah,
and it wasn't like they had to hire me.
yeah,
So
yeah,
from the very beginning, it was already like, I don't know, I sort of owed certain things to the, I don't know, I hate the word like industry
yeah,
but I sort of owed things to, I guess, anyone who wants to be involved in this kind of shit
yeah,
from the beginning. So, like last night I had Julia, the new trainer, just moved from Russia, which I'm pretty sure, I mean, I think she's told me several times. I'm just, I'm not sure if it's verified, but I'm pretty certain that a major reason that her and her husband moved here was for her to work here. I'm
cool,
almost certain.
that's cool.
There's somewhat of a language barrier there, but I mean, I would have never imagined that in a million years,
Yeah,
much less someone moving from like another state.
yeah,
So, but anyway, she was talking to me about, just like she couldn't believe how much I want to help her and how, energized I am about this stuff and just, all that. And it was very nice. But when she was explaining all that, I realized that a big part of the reason that I'm willing to do those things and motivated to do those things is because it's been done for me
mhm,
for so long by so many people. And it still happens on a regular basis with the people that are in here,
yeah, yeah,
whether it's the trainers or whether it's like someone like you or whether it's my clients like on a networking front. So,
yeah.
it's just kind of part of it.
I think it's more than considering you owe someone or not, it's respect. It's
Yeah.
like having respect for the people in the industry, and
Yeah.
that to me is having a sense of what you do as a whole. Like,
Yeah.
all the things that came before you are the only reason we can exist in
Yeah.
that way, and so to
Yeah.
um,
And I know that you're really big on like staying in touch with the people that have taught you
yeah,
things and done things for you.
yeah,
Like over the course of knowing you, you've mentioned the people that have taught you things
yeah,
countless times to me. And that's a sign of respect is like you're acknowledging what they've done for you
yeah,
without saying it out loud. You're telling the people that you know or the people that you work on how you essentially got here.
yeah, and
You
it's I
know,
mean, it's a
that means a lot to
gratitude.
people.
I hope so. I forget sometimes, and it's like just a degree of gratitude I'll never be able to express, and I didn't have, like, a formal mentor. My upbringing in tattooing is pretty chaotic, but the
Yeah.
person I learned the most from is in Louisville, and, he's an amazing guy, and I was just always, like, kind of like, "Wow," anytime I interacted with him
Yeah.
coming up in the world, and
Yeah.
but now it's like we're peers, but I go to work at his shop, and he treats me like peer because we are peers, but I'm still like, "Hey,
Yeah.
man, can I take out your trash? Can I get you a
Yeah.
coffee? Like, what can I do for you?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for you for what you have
Yep.
done for me, and I will never not wanna help you,
Yeah.
appreciate
What's
you.
the name of his shop or that guy?
That is Dennis Pace in Louisville, Kentucky, and Infinite Electric Tattoo is his shop, and, he, man, I did, a lot of guest spots there too, like, I basically, long story short, in a pretty rough way, learned to tattoo and in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from, and had something that slightly resembled a portfolio back in the day when you would
Yeah.
print photos and put them in a book, and moved up to Chicago and
Yeah.
had something that slightly resembled a portfolio and just
Yeah.
desperately looked for a job and didn't get one for a while until I was in kind of a rougher shop.
Yeah.
And then I would go back to Louisville and get tattooed by dentists. And,
Yeah.
I'd be like, what are you doing? What's that? What does that thing do? What are you
Yeah.
doing here? Can I organize your books for you? What is this? And
Yeah.
so like I just kind of bugged him enough that he was like, yeah, stick around. And he was happy to answer my questions and really respectfully too. And so, once I got tattooed a lot and my work started looking better, then I was able to come back and do guest spots in his shop. And
That's
so I
awesome.
learned the most in Louisville from them, but while I lived up here and was also tattooing and going to school.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's cool you were traveling back that much, especially
yeah,
considering it's not close,
yeah, it was
but,
a hard time. Like I don't do so well anxiety wise in the car, and
yeah.
I was just on sprint because I was working full time at a shop that was
Yeah.
2 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then I was in school full time and
Yeah.
so I'm like, well, I'm already in this full on sprint. Might as well just pile it on and go get tattooed,
Yeah,
drive
yeah,
home, get tattooed. And I would go like, get tattooed for like 3, 4 hours and then drive back
yeah.
immediately within like a 24-hour period. And
Yeah, and that's kind of the stuff that I was talking about earlier is like you just get lost. You get lost in the process of what you need to do
yeah, yeah,
to end up where you want to go. And, you weren't, I'm sure, you knew it's not convenient, but the fact that you're willing to drive to Kentucky
yeah,
over and over and over,
yeah,
even though you had certain options here to a degree, or you could have just waited and been really
yeah,
lazy about it,
right. Yeah,
but I love that just like getting in the car, going on a trip for an indefinite time
yeah,
frame just to
yeah,
figure out what it is that you need to do.
yeah.
And earlier you were talking about getting your back tattooed, and I was thinking about the video that you guys put up of you getting tattooed.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
the time lapse, yeah.
yeah, and like it was just really awesome because I had a weird flashback to like, I don't know, tattoo books that I was looking at or just like, just um like old, traditional tattooing, just like, sometimes you can go down the rabbit hole on Google
Mhm.
and it's just, I don't know, I love like doing that. And it kind of gave me a thought about like, I was like, here's my friend getting tattooed by, one of the best tattooers that I know, probably will ever know.
In the country, I'd argue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like you're pretty much naked,
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So you're exposing yourself, but like not in a sexualized way,
yeah,
but in a way where you're being like, okay, like I'm going to show the art that's being done to me. And I
mhm.
also have the art that's on my body,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's a really, I think it's a really tough thing to do. Like I'm not afraid of much, but I don't know if I'd be super comfortable just have my body out on the internet,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's not in a way that is, hurtful
yeah,
to your career or Nick's career or anything because it's tattooing, right?
yeah,
And,
yeah,
you're showing your art, and so it's not like a sketchy thing,
yeah, yeah.
and it really made me hyped because I was like,
Cool.
"Man, that's a really beautiful thing to
It's
see," and the documentation of it, I feel like was really important because you can
yeah,
look back on that, 2
yeah,
decades from now
yeah,
and
man,
show people.
I'm super proud of it, and, like, in both our industries, we consider the body as an object, that's the thing we have to consider
Yeah,
separately from the human elements, but I have to think of this thing as a machine,
yeah,
and so for me, I have a bodysuit, like, head to toe, I'm covered. I don't have my actual toes, though, that's one of the only things I don't have, but
yeah,
that represents my education and my years and all the things. And once you get like, your tits tattooed and walk in shop for everybody to look around, you're just like, you know what? It's not going to bother me to be half naked and get tattooed in this other shop. I was in
yeah,
like this massage chair, so it was like only my back was exposed, but
yeah, yeah,
like, and it's on, I was kind of surprised when they posted it, but I was excited. I was like, cool.
yeah.
All right.
No, it's cool. I mean, I know it's probably to you guys maybe not a huge deal, but from the outsider looking in, I think it's pretty badass. So you guys were like, "Yo, we're just gonna put this out there and show
Yeah.
people what we're doing," and
Yeah.
also just the respect that you have to go get tattooed by Nick, and you've also not just getting tattooed by the guy who helped you out in Kentucky, but you've also gotten tattooed at other shops here in Chicago
Oh,
that are
yeah.
notable shops
Yep.
and notable tattoo artists, and
Yeah.
it seems like you're not afraid to, you know, interact with those people and say,
Yeah.
hey, like, I really like your work. I respect it. I want it on me. I want to, essentially learn from you when you're tattooing me and just see how you're going to draw this out,
Yeah.
how you're going to execute it.
Yeah.
And you've always been really open minded with just trying to put yourself around the right people and like being a sponge, essentially. You're
Yeah.
probably the spongiest person I
Oh,
know,
man.
I think,
Yeah.
with information.
Yeah, that's the goal, man. I'm fascinated by people and processes um, and, like, some of the shops up here that I learned the most from, Pioneer Tattoo, Harlan Thompson and Tim Biedron. There, I got tattooed a lot.
Mm,
Harlan a whole lot, and it's,
yeah.
like, part of, learning, like, you have to be really respectful, for me anyway, to ask questions of your tattooer while they're working,
Yeah.
to be like, "Are you willing to share this
Mhm.
secret with me?" Even though it's not necessarily secret to some, and,
Yeah.
if someone's not threatened by other people, they're like, "Oh, yeah, this is the process I do," and,
Yeah.
not gatekeeping in any way, and so I did that a lot with Harlan. I mean, both guys really, and they just showing that respect is like spending the time, tipping fat also when you can, and just being
Yeah.
like, "Thank you." Like,
Yeah.
separate from that, I'm like, "I am grateful that you've done this for me,"
Yeah.
And then that was actually Harlan was one of the, like, we did my legs and my butt, like, Harlan did both of my butt cheeks, and he, like, made me super comfortable. It was the first time I had, like, a really vulnerable place tattooed on
Yeah.
me in a shop, and they're a private studio, and it wasn't, like, out, but it was,
Yeah.
so again, like, part of being nonchalant about having my body out there is that, like,
Yeah.
"Look, this is not just mine anymore, it's someone else's work."
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
this part of my body that I was maybe not so stoked about before, I love and have to love because somebody I
Yeah.
really care for, and I spent time and pain, and all these things have turned it
Hmm,
into a different thing for me, and
that's cool.
I think that's a same for, like, training,
Yeah.
I mean,
No, you're totally right. I didn't really think about the tattooing aspect as far as, you know, uh, sort of an improvement of
yeah,
a body part.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, obviously it looks different when it's done,
yeah,
but the whole point of someone else's work being there and the time they invested,
yeah,
it's like, I don't know, a newfound appreciation for, yourself or that part of
yeah,
you that,
yeah,
I mean, everyone has parts of them they don't love, like, for
yeah,
sure. Like, when I get out of the shower or whatever, everyone, like, inspects,
yeah, yeah,
and, especially getting a little bit older, I'm like, "Man, that wasn't totally like that a while ago. I gotta
yeah,
fix
yeah,
that."
yeah, shit changes.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's kinda cool to think about just, like, putting someone else's stuff there and then appreciating it, and
mhm,
it's not the same valuation that you give
yeah,
yourself from just being like, "I was born like this, and now I look in the mirror, and I don't like that, and if I
yeah,
can't change it, then you're just stuck,"
yeah,
So you kinda have an option, depending on who you
yeah,
are, but you have an option to being like,
yeah,
"Yeah, like, that's a cool part now.
yeah,
I like the art that's on there. I like, whatever it may be."
yeah.
Like,
I'm not saying you have to tattoo or brutalize yourself in any way
sure,
to love
yeah,
that
it's not
part of
for
you.
everyone. It's probably not for
Um,
most people.
my right, right. Not saying I recommend this life in any way, but
Yeah.
my BFA show in school is I made these like I was in sculpture primarily, and I made these essentially it looked like a fat globule. Like it's like some foam that I covered in silicone and made it tattooable, and I tattooed there at the show. And the title of the piece was "Owning Oneself a Piece at a Time," and that to me is a lot about like
Hmm.
my own insecurities and body dysmorphia and being like
Yeah.
this piece of me no longer belongs to me. I have to try and see it from the rest of the world, which is not nearly as bad as I think it is, and
Yeah.
separately from that, I'm now involving a different process, and it belongs to more
Yeah.
than one person, and,
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize that that's what tattooing, could be.
yeah,
They
yeah,
I mean, which I don't it's not like I blame them. How would you know that,
right,
otherwise, unless you're just around the right person who's willing to divulge
yeah,
that information. But, I think a lot of times we think about a tattoo being like, well, I want to remember something, or like, that art looks badass and I'd like it on my arm so
yeah,
that I'm viewed, by other people as a
yeah,
certain way, which,
yeah,
can be a lot of things.
yeah,
But, I definitely like it's sort of a form of self-improvement the way you're describing
oh,
it.
for sure.
And I like it because even though it could be taken as a superficial thing because it's just on the outside of your body,
Mhm.
but mentally and internally, it sounds like it can be a lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't know, like, I will use numbing and that sort of thing, so I'm very much like, the suffering doesn't have to be a part of it, like,
Yeah.
it's not about pain and
Yeah.
suffering
Yeah.
necessarily, but it is still about earning a thing,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
I'm still like, at a certain point, you will have earned the ability
Yeah.
take it easy on yourself and that
Yeah.
sort of thing, you
Yeah.
know, um, and, on that a side note, on that converse of that, I have tattoos from people that I never wanna see ever again, like, and I don't
Yeah.
regret the time of the life that I had,
Yeah.
that I went through that, it's
Yeah.
still, like, a marker of who I was at that time
Yeah.
and what went on, and often I still really like the artwork.
Yeah.
Some of them are bad enough people, bad enough tattoos that I have just gotten them covered and,
Yeah.
but it's still, like, a part of the evolution,
For sure.
and it's a part of, like, I've curated my own work, and
Yeah.
some of the worst places on my body, like, because I have a bodysuit, I have, like, my upper inner thigh and everything tattooed, like, tiny little spaces of very difficult areas. I've done those on myself, like,
Yeah.
when I'm like, "This is
Yeah.
bugging me. This little piece on my hip is bugging me,"
Yeah.
like, I have to do it, so, uh it is just like all a collection of something you've built for yourself, and
Yeah.
however you
Yeah.
wanna do that is fine. It doesn't mean,
Yeah.
I coulda gotten one tattoo and called it, but I want everything.
Yeah.
More is more.
Yeah, and as far as the, people, that we've all been through it, every person that, is alive has had bad experiences with people. Um, and I think that shit hardens you, and if you're smart, then you just realize that, yeah, this person did wrong or whatever, but like the thing I try to do, which I think is really healthy, is that I try to see in what ways I assisted them in damaging me, you know,
Oh, interesting.
and sometimes in doing that, I'll even find out, things that I may have done wrong along the way.
Yeah.
But a
Yeah.
lot of times, if it's someone that I've completely shunned, which it's a
Mhm.
very small number, but a lot of times there were certain things that I was like, okay, I had a red flag there, kind of let that go, that
Yeah,
kind of shit.
yeah.
But I remember those people in a way that I'm like, okay, there was certain fun parts, there was enjoyable moments, but I also like use that as a way to be like, okay, like I'm past that now. I'm a little bit, thicker skinned because of the person. I can deal with more, and I can help, hopefully other people around me avoid those people or those situations by being vocal about it. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that, I'm not going to drop a name and trash this and that, but I will for sure let people know like, hey, that is a sign. I've been there before. I've experienced it, and I'm
Mhm.
letting you know that you're going down the same path.
Yeah.
So I'll repay those people that I think are not great in the world by
Yeah.
looking out for other people like that.
Right, right. Like, here's a way you can avoid that. That's something I love about our friendship is that we have, like, such a good business relationship too. Like,
Oh yeah,
we've gone through some of the same things, and
yep,
I've learned a lot from you, and I remember, like, I remember when Lawrence was going through something like this, and he was like, "You just learn what you learn, and you go through it again,"
yep,
which, like how life doesn't get better, but you do,
yeah,
and
for sure.
just trying to remember, like, yes, I was vulnerable with that person, and was that a flaw that I allowed
Yeah,
myself to get hurt in that way? And it's
yep,
like, no, it's not a bad thing to have that
yeah,
attitude,
yeah,
but
yeah,
next time around, we
yeah.
know what to do differently to
Hmm.
build ourselves and our business and to protect ourselves too.
Yeah, totally. And like the funny thing about it is that going through all those experiences, especially on the business side of things, um, and a lot of this we've probably helped each other figure out just along the way by
Yeah.
talking about it and
Yes.
being like, hey, when this happened to you, what did you do and how did that turn out?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
That's been a really common thing for us talking about over the years. And one thing I've realized is that, because the gym's been in business for 10 years, a little over now, and there's certain things that I've tightened the screw on that before I used to be really lax about that caused a bunch of problems. And it wasn't necessarily
Mhm.
something that I did specifically. It's just that
Mhm.
I wasn't on top of it from the get go.
Yeah.
And the reason I screwed up that, I guess, or I failed is because I didn't want to micromanage people.
Yeah.
So I essentially gave people too much freedom
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it caused a bunch of problems for myself that I had to go back later and repair and figure out how to fix. And then once I figured out that there was X amount of things going wrong in the beginning, I sort of got too rigid in other ways.
Mhm.
One of the things being probably my personality.
Yeah.
So I'm always nice to people. I say hello. I'm always cordial, and I always try to be people's friend. But I got a little too cold with the people who were working at the gym,
Yeah.
and then that caused problems on the other side of it.
Right. That
So now there's certain things that I'm really rigid on and I'm really over the top on, and I don't feel bad about it at all, and I don't apologize about it at all because I've already seen the other side of it. I already know what
Right.
happens
Yeah.
if I'm not like that. So it's a protective thing for me and the other party, which causes a way smoother relationship
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it, there's certain things where I was like, man, you could have been a lot more friendly, a lot nicer, or you could have hung out with people more. You could have invited people to shit. You could have taken time throughout your day, even though I have a busy schedule. Like now I actually try to take time. I'm sure you've noticed it over the years because you've trained me from when I was at Hero, where I was like a robot,
Mhm.
to now, which I'm like part robot.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember.
and Shara too,
Yeah.
Shara too.
Yeah.
But, but now I try to take the time to shoot the shit with people, talk to other people's clients, like try not to be so over the top about the
Yeah.
schedule and everything being perfect.
Yeah.
And so I, in a lot of ways like that, I've let go,
Yeah.
and I give a lot of people freedom in ways that I didn't before,
Right.
and I'll ask people like Diego, he's not our newest trainer, but he is one of the newer ones.
Yeah.
And pretty regularly that guy will give me an idea and old me would be like, no,
No.
you haven't been here long
Yeah,
enough,
you're too green to say anything
you know?
valid. Yeah.
And that's like kind of an old school thing, which
Yep.
I know you're extremely familiar with,
Very.
coming from what I know about
Yeah.
like old school tattoo shops. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like probably far more over the top with that shit.
Oh, yeah.
But so I tried to rid myself of that as long as it's a good idea. And I'll be like, yeah, you know what? You're coming in fresh. You don't see this place the way I do. He loves it, but he doesn't love it the way I do.
Yeah.
And so he has a perspective and a vantage point that I could never have.
Yeah.
So I try to be like, yeah, like, I see what you're saying. That's a good idea. And then I'll tell him, compliment him on it. And then he wants to do that more.
Cool.
And I do that with everyone down to who's been here the
Yeah.
longest at this point, and God, it's been way better. Like,
Right. Right.
it's been way fucking better,
And that's like an
like,
information sponging thing too. Like you welcome these people around you for a reason, like
yeah,
you don't
that's true.
necessarily know until, like, I'm sure when you hire Diego, you're like, that guy's got value. Like, I
Yeah.
know, I'm not sure how it's going to be, but,
Yeah.
and then he's showing himself a little at a time, which is super cool.
One of the main reasons I hired him is because he seemed excited. He probably came in more excited than anyone
Cool.
I've ever seen,
That's great.
and I was like, well, we're all really into shit here, but
Yeah.
that level of excitement and just like I don't know, it was like a purity kind of thing, he's
Yeah.
just so not innocent, but
Yeah.
he's just out of college. He was an athlete in
Hmm.
college. He's super
Hmm.
excited to be home in Chicago. He just
Yeah.
wants to make shit happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It was
And
like great addition.
past you and past me would have done this and be like, I see that number on a paper. How many years you've been training? How many years you've been tattooing? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Hard
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, it's that black and white thinking that's
Yeah.
usually got me in trouble when you're just like super rigid in one way and then the
Yep.
pendulum swings the other way and you're super
Yep.
rigid the other way. And that's how we learn and build. But
Yeah.
finding that middle ground, like I've,
For sure.
got people tattooing for me now that are really wonderful. And in the past, I would have been like, that's not enough years. You haven't done enough years. And I'm
Yeah.
like, your work is killer. Like,
Yeah.
if I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
look at
For
your work
sure.
and guess how long you've been tattooing, and
Yep.
again, old me way too rigid to have,
Yeah.
been okay with that. And it's just, they've done a lot of great things for me. And I'm really
100%.
happy to have achieved that flexibility,
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to ascend to a different level of um, whatever floor we entered in on.
Yeah.
Whoever gave us like, hey, here's just like your basic introduction. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad that we got past that.
Yeah.
Obviously
Yeah.
some pain, but like,
Yeah.
it's better to be here and trying to like evolve a little bit than
Yeah.
just like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do whatever whoever before me told me what to do. I'm just gonna do that. Good habits, bad habits,
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. And then
Um,
also like trying to be the person that you needed when you were brought up,
yeah,
be like,
that's true.
would have helped me excel more is like this
Yep,
attitude, this material, like
yep,
taking away the, like as a shop owner, I do my best to just facilitate the space for everybody to use.
yeah,
Like everything's self-explanatory. You don't have to run me down to find out where the backup stencil paper is. It's right there where you can see it.
yep.
It's clear.
Yeah. And speaking of your shop, you know, um, I have a handful of tattoos, I'm not like the most tattooed person I know, but I have enough to remember what certain shops are like
Yeah.
and what certain shops like, what a shop's like in Pittsburgh and what a shop's like in Indiana and like my hometown and, Minnesota, whatever. And the thing I like about your shop the most is that it's very professional and very clean and tidy, but a l- the majority of the feel of your place feels like a house.
Cool.
Like, and I don't know, I think it's the layout and you just have like the couch right there and
Yeah.
and the fridge is right there and it's just like very cozy
Yeah.
and
That's
and allows you to spend a lot of time there, which is useful when you're getting something done that makes you want to leave in 20 minutes.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
that's helpful. That's absolutely what I'm going for. I want it to be cozy and comfortable, and I've gotten tattooed and had like, sometimes you just have a bad session. Like, I've for sure just, like, sobbed on the table having a bad time, and in one
I think I've
shop,
heard
I
you
was
mention that to me like
oh my god,
numerous,
so many
numerous
times.
times.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's not like I like putting myself through this, but it's just, like, some days are just bad days,
Hmm.
and you still gotta do the work, and sometimes the work is so bad that you're gonna fucking sob on the table, you know?
That's true.
Like, one shop I was in, it was arranged that my head was basically in the waiting area and, 'cause I was getting my calf done, I was on my stomach and the station's behind me
Hmm.
and, so and I'm just, like, crying because it's terrible. Getting your calf tattooed is terrible.
Your head was like sticking out
It
from
was
the
like
waiting
it was,
area.
like, in the waiting area is, like, kinda how it's, and
Oh,
so
I
I'm just,
see.
like, publicly sobbing and, like, I'm super embarrassed, I'm in no way, like,
Yeah, yeah,
now I'm, like, proud of myself for making
yeah,
my way out the other side of those years, but
yeah. You're
and it's like I never want somebody to go through that, and I have a lot of
yeah,
faith that it's a really vulnerable thing
yeah,
to, you
definitely.
know, present your body to a
Yeah,
stranger essentially and to go through
yeah,
this really intense pain, and so the more I can make someone comfortable in other ways, I'm like, "Do you want a snack? Do you want some water? Here's a table
yeah,
for your stuff. Like, are you comfortable? Are you cold? Are you warm?"
yeah. Well, I was gonna say your bedside manner and hospitality is, next level.
Thank
Um,
you.
but what's being done and the outcome, it still has that hard aspect to it, and that's what I really enjoy about it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's lost, and I think that's possible too in gyms, in tattoo shops, and the like. It's very possible to try to correct so hard that you lose sort
Oh,
of
yeah.
like you lose like the whole foundation of what the shit is.
Yeah,
And I don't
yeah,
think that either of us have lost that, but we've also tried to like, be smart about the way we're doing things and try to
yeah,
think back about, what we've done, other people have done, and try to create something that is not that, but it still respects the beginnings of all the shit and like
yeah,
who we owe our work to and things like
absolutely.
that, whether the people we know or don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, the one thing I wanted to ask you too is, and you can tell me as much as you want to tell me or as little, um, but what made you want to start a tattoo shop?
Mm.
Because you know, it's not a easy thing to do, especially in a city where there's 20,000 tattoo shops.
Yeah,
And sometimes there's 4 tattoo shops on the same road.
yeah,
And
yep,
sometimes they're similar too. They're not
yeah,
even, I mean, they're not the same, but you know what I mean? They're not
yeah.
like 100% different from each other. And so what made you actually want to go through with that and sort of take the leap of faith? Because, just like any business, a lot of businesses open and close and same thing at tattoo shops. And it's so easy, I feel like, to screw up a tattoo shop. You
Yep.
you might have great artistic ability, but the work that you're actually putting out, if it's not good and other people around you don't respect it, you
Yeah.
can totally tank and you can have a great business and, really, really try hard.
Yeah.
So it's so
Yes.
easy to
Yeah.
just like eat
Yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
what made you wanna do that?
I'd like to say it was something really respectable, but it was really like it was slightly desperation. Like, I was in a pretty sad place in my life, and that was another thing where, tattoo shops weren't around then like they are now. It was like you had to own a shop. You had to be tattooing for like 20 years before it would even be respected in the community to open your own shop.
Mm,
And I was in not a great place. Like, the shop I was in was the opposite of what I needed in any
mhm,
way. Like,
mhm.
I have, you know, part of my anxiety disorder is having like spotlight effect when you feel
What's
like
that mean?
everybody's watching you at all times.
Oh, yeah.
And granted, a lot of those dudes they'd come over and comment on my clients' bodies,
Mhm.
on my body, on what I'm
Yeah.
doing, any sort
Mhm,
of thing. And
mhm.
it's just not, I was not making my best work in that environment.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was just like, I need to go hide in a hole and,
Yeah, yeah.
and draw and have nobody look at me
Yeah.
and just do what I need. And I can like be calm and tender with, my clients, and
Yeah.
that's going to be okay. Like, I remember at that shop, like, one client of mine proposed to his girlfriend by having me stencil on "Will you marry me?" with her tattoo. She didn't get it tattooed, but and the guys were just ripping on him. They were just making fun of him
Oh,
and
yeah.
making fun of me for being a part of it. And I'm like, "This
Yeah.
sucks." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Why do you guys hate people so much and you have this job?" So
Yeah, yeah.
it's just more like, one, I do my best work when I'm alone. and
Yeah.
having a job where we need other people to work is different. So
Yeah. Well, I
that's
mean,
really why I went and started my own thing, and I
yeah.
was pretty, like, embarrassed. I was like, "I have not been tattooing long
Yeah. I
enough
remember
to
you
have
mentioned
this
that to
thing."
me,
Yeah, yeah,
in kind of a confiding way to a degree. Not that you were second guessing it, but I remember that you had said something along those lines, like, I haven't been doing this long enough to do it. And
yeah,
so, you weren't sure like what other people were gonna
yeah,
think. And not
yeah,
not the general public necessarily, or even, people that, there's everyone has people in our lives that's just gonna make fun of us for everything we do, no
yep,
matter what.
yeah,
You could do something awesome and you do something stupid, and they're
yeah,
gonna make fun of you either way.
yep,
But I think, if I remember right, you were sort of worried about, like, people you respect,
yeah,
the people who taught you things like that.
yep,
That's how I took it anyways.
yeah, yes, yep,
And so, yeah, I could understand your hesitancy with
yeah.
doing that, but, it sounds like you didn't really have much of a choice either, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I could've, and I feel like, and a lot of people maybe would have been like, "No, you pay your dues in the walk-in shop before you even think about having a private studio." That's
yeah,
another thing is I have a private studio. We're by
yeah,
appointment only. Our door's shut. You gotta talk to somebody before you can get in. And that's privacy. That's calmness.
yeah,
So to be like, I would say in our industry, you work in a walk-in shop, maybe you own a walk-in shop, and then you can think about owning a private studio.
yeah,
But I skipped all that. And a lot
yeah,
of people nowadays are doing similar things, and it's not a big deal. Now that I look back on it, I'm like,
yeah.
"Man, I wish I'd been nicer to myself and not as, like, hung up on what I think I
Yeah.
should do."
Yeah, not to exaggerate it too much, but, like, anytime someone's, like, frontiering,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're gonna look stupid, people are gonna think you're gonna fail,
Yep.
or that you shouldn't do it because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't do it.
Yeah.
And, I had somewhat of a similar trajectory, maybe not the exact same, but I think the time frame that I chose to do things was generally faster
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But, I think that's just the wavelength that we work on.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, had we put all that time in and followed every single rule, I don't think things would probably be the way that they are,
Yeah.
and we would be, you know, um, 10 or 15 years behind. I'm 41 now. I can't
Yeah.
afford to be that far behind,
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
really glad that I
Same.
kind of like
Right.
just did things on my own trajectory
Yep.
and respected what I could along the way.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was for you. Like, I didn't come from it from a place of cockiness where I'm like, I know better
Yeah.
than these people. I know so much better than all these business owners in all these cities, and
Yeah.
I know what to do.
Hmm.
But what I did eventually figure out is what I needed for myself
Yeah.
to make my best work and what I needed for my clients. Like, I had
Yeah.
clients who were visibly uncomfortable at like the bro talk and all the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And these guys like
Hmm.
drinking beers and talking shit all around
Hmm.
them while they're going through a painful, vulnerable thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what we want? We want privacy. We want calmness.
Yeah.
And so more than being positive about my abilities or what I felt I deserved, I'm like, the people that I work with deserve this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you think about the ratio of how many shops are in the city, um, versus how many shops in the city are like a boutique or like a
Yeah.
private studio,
Yeah.
the numbers are gonna weigh in much more heavy on the just public shop. Not that there's anything
Yeah.
wrong with that,
No, I
right?
think
Because
that's still the case. It's,
it is, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of, private studios and things have popped up, and a lot of
Yeah.
people tattooing under the table is the thing.
Yeah, I
You
guess
know?
there's always
Yeah, there's
there's
that
always that.
there's that too. But yeah, that's on average, that's
Yeah.
how it's done is you walk in and you get in, get out, and
Yeah.
so, like, for sure was thought of as a snob, and I definitely have acted like a snob and, not proudly,
Yeah, yeah.
but for me, I have it as, like, I'm proud of the reasons that I have it.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes that snob thing could be like a security measure,
Yes.
because if you're not actually that way,
Yeah.
like, if you weren't brought up that way, or if that's just not who you are as a person, sometimes that can be a temporary thing just to
Yeah.
protect yourself or other things around you.
Yeah.
I've definitely been guilty of that to a degree
Yeah.
as well. But it sure is nice when you get to a point where you don't have to do that, or you
Yeah.
let that go or whatever, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you kind of get back to like who you originally were
Right.
before you were around people that you had to be protective,
Yeah.
like, and it's fucking really relaxing.
Right,
It's really
right,
nice.
right. I mean, part of that for me is the attitude of, like, dress for the job you want,
Yeah.
so I definitely, like, strutted like I was better than I was, in in ways because,
Yeah.
like, I have a BFA, and that's, like, call it a big fucking arts degree because it shit doesn't matter. But, going into, like, having this it's a reputable
Yeah.
education that I do have really,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
going into these shops where these dudes would just, like, treat me like shit, and
Yeah.
their work looks like shit, and so
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, I'm the opposite of you,"
Yeah.
I'm this, like,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
I look
yeah.
back on that and I'm like, "God, what an asshole I was," but, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, I am still very blue collar with what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I go in, I make what I make, go home, and that's the job, and nowadays too,
Yep.
I'm, like, taking what walks in the door, I'm
Yeah.
not like, "I'm too arty for this project," I'm like, "I will take what you need because
Yeah.
you're a human with valid desires." I mean, if it's
Yeah.
gonna make a bad tattoo, I'm not doing that, but,
I know what you mean.
you know
Yeah, I think humbleness is like a sign of maturity, and so it kind of goes full circle where like, there's been a lot of things, in training people or like in like fitness or whatever that I've like been like, that's stupid.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
above that. I do this. Like I'm into powerlifting. I don't like fuck with that,
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But it's funny because now that I've, gotten to the point where I'm at now, this is probably the most open-minded I've ever been in my life.
Mhm.
And, now I'm going back to things that I blew off or that I
Yeah,
like never really made fun of anyone for anything. That's not really my nature, but just in my head, like
yeah,
I was like
yeah,
laughing
dismissive,
at it,
yeah,
dismissive,
yeah,
yeah. And so now I'm going back and try to uncover things and see why people did certain
right,
things, as far as training or lifting goes, and it's a really fun thing to be able to do that and and be as skilled as you are, but then also be like, hey man, whatever you want to work on, like I'm gonna be aside for myself
yeah,
to give you the tattoo that you need as long as it's a okay tattoo.
right, right, yeah,
But it's a nice thing to do that. I also see Nick being like that a lot too,
yeah,
because Nick, like we were saying earlier, is like such an amazing tattoo artist. Um, and the way he treats people, and the way he talks to
mhm,
people, it's everyone's the same.
yeah,
Like you could be like a famous tattoo artist, you
mhm,
could be a musician,
yeah,
you could be a random walking off the street. I think I met him uh, before I knew Allison.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I had been getting my hair cut at Isaac's shop at Handcrafted, and Isaac had told me about him, and I just like walked in and said hello or whatever. He didn't know who I was.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
super nice. And now we sort of know each other on a different level, and we have these connections through
yeah,
you and Allison and all these people. And he's the same.
yeah,
And I really trust a person like that.
yeah, really consistent,
And he could be a total asshole.
right,
He could be
right,
so
yeah,
like pompous and
yeah,
he's not, and
yeah.
I think he's just like still trying to get better, which is cool,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's reflected in their work in that shop's work.
Yeah.
They're there
Yeah.
as a service to people.
Yeah.
Like, those guys fucking work.
Yeah, and it's funny because over the years, like I've explained the gym to people, because I tend to be admittingly like really delusional, but it helps me get things done.
Yeah,
So if I just like imagine things and then just try to work towards it, eventually I sort of get there.
yeah,
That's how my brain works. Whether
absolutely.
it's stupid or whether it's realistic, I just
Yeah,
kind of start doing it.
that's what I was thinking about before is, like, having a general impression of the goal,
Yeah.
and then specific about the steps to get there.
Yep.
Because like, old me had such rigidity, I would be like, "This is the goal. I'm doing this exact thing,
Yeah.
and every step that I take toward that has to be this exact way,"
Yeah.
And, like, I think a part of how you and I have been able to change a lot of our habits is that self-reflection to be like, "Okay, why does it have to be that way? I've
Yeah. Yeah.
decided
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
exactly why it needs to be."
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't I wanna hire somebody with not that much experience?
Yeah.
It's like,
Get rid of that stubbornness a little
yeah,
bit. Yeah.
yeah,
And, with the whole like kind of being delusional or just having like, um, really random thoughts about how I want things to be with the gym. I think from when the gym first started, it was a lot of people that were involved in music, right?
mm,
So primarily it was like hardcore people, punk
yeah,
people,
yeah,
people that had tattoos for the most part, or people that knew those people and were okay with that, that
yeah,
were fairly normal, but
yeah,
wanted to be around those kind of
yeah,
people. So from the very beginning, there was like a music aspect to it. Obviously, with that kind of music, art is like almost as important as the music,
yeah, yeah,
and so there was always that part of the gym that I wanted to expand upon. Um, as the gym grew, I wanted other things to sort of like flourish because of the gym and
mhm,
have it become more than just a gym.
yeah,
Um, and it's weird. I always kind of see the gym as like a little art space,
yep,
even though I'm not creating art,
sure. I
but Oh, go ahead,
I
sir.
disagree with that. I mean, you're fostering a community here, and like
Yeah,
you curate who comes in here. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And as far as you're open to everybody,
yeah,
until
yeah.
you're not,
Till further
until they give
notice.
you a reason not to.
Yeah,
But that adds up
that's
to
true.
like putting together a lot of the same minded folks and a lot of
Mhm.
people who are here to work hard and still such a crazy variety of people. But like my best friends I've met in this gym,
Yeah, same.
like the best things that I've ever made have come from people in this gym,
Yeah,
and that's like that is for sure a form of art. Like
yeah.
what you've put together,
Oh,
what you've
thanks.
made is
Yeah, and, because of sort of that weird vision that I'm having a hard time even explaining what it is, there's been a band that's done a music video here,
yeah, yeah.
there's been all these random things that it doesn't feel like an activity that would be at the
Mhm.
gym, and I
Yeah.
wanna just keep leaning into that as hard as possible,
Yeah.
and it makes the gym better because people aren't just like, "Well, I go to work out.
Mhm.
It sucks to work out sometimes." End of story, you
Yeah,
know?
right,
So
right.
there's this whole social side of it, like you were talking about with meeting, some of your best friends and colleagues or networking,
Yeah.
whatever. Even like the 10-year anniversary we had here was like a weird party kind of
Mhm.
thing,
It was
and
cool. Yeah.
just like having the bar here
Mhm.
and, having like a very limited night of tattooing,
Yeah, yeah.
which
That was
like,
fun and weird.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
the people ate it up, and then a DJ, Ralph, a buddy of mine who's like sort of been involved in the Chicago punk scene and the DJ like bar scene. And I don't know, I just like always like to try to expand on those kind of weird things and see what kind of shit we can get into and let it just like do its own thing to a degree.
Yeah. And that's part of like making something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Like, which for sure, again, could be considered an art piece and like
Yeah.
the variety of people you've brought together to make this thing bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
like every once in a while, I'll just like kind of step back and remember where we've been and where this place
Yeah.
started. And
Yeah.
I'm just like get choked up thinking about, I'm just so proud,
Yeah.
so proud to be your friend and to be a part of
Yeah.
this place and to be able to come
No,
here,
thanks. Yeah,
you
it's
know?
mutual. And like while you were explaining that last part, I was thinking about my dad's painting on the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, and that to me is the most important one, obviously. But there's a lot of your other artwork that is on the walls, it's on a lot of the shit behind me on the merch, and people wear that out and about, you know, order it like all over the country and wear that stuff, and so it's become much more expansive than I ever really thought it could have been, and it's I don't know, I'm just kind of excited to see like
And it means
what
a
other
lot to
weird
me
shit
that
we can get to do.
it means a lot to me that you like have ever even like wanted my artwork here, period.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah,
And sometimes I forget and then I look around and I'm like, man, I'm all over this gym.
like
My shit is
yeah,
everywhere. And
yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Like I'm a part of it too.
Yep.
Um,
No, 100%. And there was something earlier that I didn't ask you. You were talking about originally learning how to tattoo in Kentucky, or sort of that was like the beginning stages of it. And you went to art school. Did you go to art school in Kentucky, or was it here in
it
Chicago?
was here in Chicago. I went
That's
to
what I
the School
thought.
of the Art Institute of Chicago. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I
Okay.
was tattooing before I decided to go to school
Okay.
and I'm still tattooing
That's
afterwards. So it's
that's
not
not very common, right? Like,
It's not. I do a lot of things backwards, so it's like, in theory, don't you go to college to get a better job, and I went to college and ended up with a lot more debt, with a
yeah,
job that I had beforehand that ended up paying for said debt,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is I'm really lucky in that way too,
yeah.
and I wouldn't trade my experiences for the world. I ended up, in metal fabrication and casting, so that's what I have the most experience in is metal sculpture, and never would I've found my way into that, I don't think,
So in
otherwise.
school, you went to school for metal
I
fabrication and
went there
sculpture,
for
or
painting and sculpture primarily
oh, okay,
and
got you.
spending some time in the painting department. It was not like I'm a realistic representative painter. I like to make figures. I like to make landscapes,
Hmm.
but like SAIC is a much more conceptual school. And I'm like, I'm not my thing. So I found the people that were the hardest workers. And that was in the sculpture department because you can't make a 20-foot sculpture without your welds being solid.
Yeah,
So I was like, tell me everything. What are you
yeah,
guys doing? And learning a ton of process. I'm fascinated by
yeah.
processes and
So you originally went to that school. Did you go there for painting a sculpture right out of the gate?
I did,
Okay.
for painting primarily, and then I ended up just sculpture
That's what
focused.
it sounded
So
like. Okay, I
you
wanna make
can
sure I heard it
you
right.
don't have to declare majors at SAIC. You can just do whatever you want, which is
Ah,
cool, but also
that's
can yield a bunch of flaky students, which is frustrating to be
you say
around.
flaky?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was around a lot of like it's
Yeah,
also pass fail. Like you don't have grades, you pass, you fail. So I
interesting.
was around a bunch of like I was like 25, 26 when I went back to school, and I was around a bunch of like 18-year-olds that were just
Damn.
half-assing this
Yeah.
expensive ass education, and like I was closer to in age than
Yeah,
to my teachers than I was a lot of students. And
yeah.
honestly, at that time, I was in school to become an art teacher because
Mm.
when I left Chicago, Louisville to come to Chicago, I was working at a shop where I don't know, there's a guy who would do heroin and fall asleep in the front and just drool. And like, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the kind of stuff I went through there. And
Wait,
I
at the
was,
school?
no, sorry, this is at the shop I worked at
Oh,
in Kentucky. Oh God, no,
I
sorry.
was
So
like I was like, "Jesus Christ."
no,
Okay,
no,
so the
sorry,
shop you were
sorry.
at.
So the shop I was at,
Gotcha.
and I was like, "You know what? This is
That
not
is
sustainable.
gnarly.
I do not belong in this industry. This is not just my parents are right. This is a terrible idea. So I'm going to go to school and become a teacher." And so I'm in school
Yeah,
and I'm getting to know my teachers because I'm their age and I'm like respectful of
yeah,
them and their time. I'm on time.
yeah,
I'm asking them questions and they're like some of the most miserable people I've ever met. Like
yeah,
most teachers I know are not stoked about what it's like to be a teacher, and they're
yeah,
not respected, especially at SAC.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I tattoo a lot of teachers because they need
yeah,
fucking self care
of
because they're not
course.
appreciated. So
Yeah.
I'm like a couple years
God, what
into.
a rough fucking
Oh
job.
my god, I can't even. I'm so teachers and nurses and therapists. My god, I'm so grateful for all these people.
Yeah,
And so anyway, so I'm in school to be a teacher, being like, this
yeah,
is the only thing you can do that's respectful with art. Like, I'm not going to go to New York and become a famous painter. I'm going to become
yeah,
a teacher. And so then I'm like, you know what, this is not
yeah,
a good idea for me. And so I'm like, you
yeah,
know what, I already have is a job that's making me money where I get to draw every day.
yeah,
So I'd say like I found my real footing with tattooing while I was in school because I had to see the other
yeah,
end of that pendulum where I'm
for
like,
sure.
there's like shitty heroin shop in Kentucky or prestigious nice art school in Chicago, and like I didn't fit in either box.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's interesting. And you mentioned that you gravitated towards like the metalwork sculpture
yeah,
side of the school. So what kind of interactions, not like in a negative way, but what kind of things did you start noticing when you got there where you found yourself leaning in that direction? Which I think is like hugely fitting,
yeah.
just
Oh,
personality wise. And, even in this podcast, we mentioned just like, blue collar
mm-hmm.
shit, like getting down and
Yeah,
dirty,
yeah,
not being above, anything. So like what actually happened, or like how did you realize that you wanted to lean into that? Because I feel like a lot of your tattooing and a lot of your sort of like outlook on life is extremely related to the people that do welding and do sculpture,
yeah.
and there's just certain mindset and personality type that those people fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was wondering what led you to that pathway, because I feel like that has a huge effect on your work ethic and also a huge effect on the way that you view tattooing, like the hours you put in,
Yeah,
um, how seriously you take it. Like you treat each tattoo as like your life's work sculpture, like the last piece
yeah,
you'll ever do, the thing
yeah.
that you,
And as it should be, like work like you have 1,000 years is something that was taught to me.
yeah,
But I'm like, I don't have time for that shit. But the older I get, the more I'm like,
I'm
that
fucking dying,
I'm fucking
man.
dying. That's one of my woodworking friends taught me that. And I'm like, I can't do that, man. I don't have time for this shit. But like you brush, wood's not forgiving. I worked in the wood and metal shop as well. So like part of my job was making sure people didn't, fuck themselves up. And
Yeah,
like what brought me to those people was their attention to detail
yeah,
and having to put a lot of value into this product,
yeah,
because like again, you can't half-ass a thing. You can't work with the table saw in a slightly checked out
yeah,
attention mode
yeah,
because you will fuck yourself up. You can kill someone,
yeah,
Like that's and I hate to say that the extremity, like it being such an extreme process is the only thing that'll make me get my shit together and care, but that was a lot of it that I was like, "I have to be on to do
mm.
this." Like, same with tattooing, I'm like, "I have to."
That's a good point. I guess you really
Yeah,
can't like, I
mhm,
mean, I guess you could,
like,
but
phone it in.
but there's not really the option for that
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
like, I mean, it's kind of similar when I'm training someone,
yeah,
especially if they get more advanced.
yeah,
Like I can't be tired that day
Yep.
and like look out the window because someone's riding their bike by
Mhm.
when someone's doing a max effort squat
Yeah.
and I'm supposed to cue them to do it correctly
Yeah.
and or keep them safe and spot them.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
even a fucking option. Like I would not be allowed to do that job anymore
Yeah.
had I allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
So you bring up a really good point about like the extreme side of
Yeah. Yeah.
the attention that you have to have for that kind of work.
And the other side of that is the challenge is to be that disciplined with something that you could conceive of that doesn't matter as much. Someone's not depending on you,
Hmm.
but it's more important for me to like again, I was just like, why am I drawn to this? It's because why am I drawn to these people that work hard
Yeah.
and produce this thing that is
Hmm.
that literally has blood, sweat, and tears in it, as your dad's painting has for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now you have a metal thing that you can't unmake unless somebody really, really wants to unmake
Yeah.
it. And just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
tattooing, you have a thing that's
There's a permanence
lasting.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it is like the respect and the hard work and moving your hands, moving your body, making the thing. And
Hmm.
one of my favorite quotes is the painter Chuck Close. And the quote is, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us get up and go to work, you know. And that guy, if you don't know his
Oh yeah.
paintings, they're really large scale and he was paraplegic. His paintings were like fucking 20 feet tall, and there's portraits of people and he makes them with these like little squares of shapes and I'll show it to you
So
at
how's
some
this
point.
guy getting to
It's
those heights?
crazy.
Does he have like a little elevator?
He's like a specialized scissor lift. He has the house he has in, I forget where it was, but there's like a slot in the floor where you can move the painting up and down between the 2 stories, you
Yeah.
know? And so either way, I don't know nearly enough about him
Yeah.
as I would like, but that guy fucking
Oh, I mean, that's
worked,
an
he
incredible
worked. Yeah.
introduction, and it made me think of something very random and polar opposite from talking about like an incredible, unique artist. But do you know who David Goggins is?
Oh, yeah.
So, so there's an element of David Goggins that's like funny,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's kind of like a meme, and it's like people also make fun of him because he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think he understands why people make fun of him,
Yeah.
because you have to
Yes.
be able to also make fun of yourself if you're
Yeah.
going to be that person.
Yeah.
But then there's also the aspect to him that I take really seriously, and I've literally used that guy to get me out of the dumps numerous
Mhm.
times,
Yep.
even though I know it's funny.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I
you have to be
know,
like a caricature of the thing that you're trying to
yeah,
be to a degree, I
yeah,
think.
and I don't know the exact story, so I might get it wrong, but I know that he's had a lot of body problems.
Mhm.
He was a Navy
I
SEAL.
remember I read his book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hugely
Yeah.
overweight, very unhealthy, and then totally switched to become this this hero guy who just trains and runs harder than any person on the
Yeah.
planet.
Do you
Uh,
remember how he achieved the SEAL status? He
no, I
he
don't.
tried 3 different times. On his 3rd time, he was running on broken legs. Both of his legs he had broken, and he taped them up.
Like
And
his feet
like
or
his
oh,
legs,
his
like his
actual
tib
legs.
fib. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but, like, he was like, "I'm doing this, doesn't fucking matter." Like, I think a 3rd try is the last try, and I was just like I remember
Yeah,
when I got back into running, I was,
yeah,
like, listening to his audiobook, and I'm like, "Alright, doesn't matter if I don't feel like it, I'm fucking doing it
yeah.
today," you know?
That makes sense with how you run because your body. You and I, mostly you, but you and I have worked very hard on getting your body to be healthy,
Yeah.
and you run pretty fucking hard for the body that you've had in the past and the body that you currently have now. It's
Thank
much
you.
better now,
Yeah.
obviously, but the amount that you run for what you've been through and what you do for work every day is unbelievable. So it makes sense that you would, know who that guy is and,
Yeah,
listen to
yeah,
his book and apply it to your own running.
yeah,
I thought
and
you were going to laugh at me for bringing that up, but,
oh, no,
um,
and for the record, I'm not so behind absolutely everything that he posts or, does, but
yeah,
still, like, very
yeah,
much remember that he was like, "I just decided one day I didn't." He was like an older guy going into being a Navy SEAL as well.
yeah, yeah, like
He was just like,
for
"I've
sure.
decided my life is gonna be different,"
Yep.
and it is now,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you and I have absolutely had that same mindset and done that. We're like, "This is
Yeah.
how I wanna change everything I'm going
No,
to."
totally. And there was even an ultra that he ran. I don't think it was recent. I think it was like 10 years ago or 15. It was a while ago. But he maybe it was the first ultra he ran, but he broke every bone in both of his feet
Oh, jeez.
in the
Yeah.
ultra, and his feet were like bleeding.
Oh, jeez.
And he still
Yeah.
like finished the ultra and
Yeah.
either won it or got second or like top three or
Doesn't
something
surprise
like
me.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a specific story that was more recent, maybe 5 or 7 years ago, something like that. and he had, and maybe it's when he broke his legs with the Navy SEAL thing,
Yeah.
but he had to have, I think he had to have his shin bones both cut,
Interesting.
like
Yeah.
all the way through,
Wow.
because his shin bones were no longer aligning with his knee joint. There was
Jeez.
something where
Yeah.
like his shins were twisted,
Yeah. I
um,
believe it. I don't
with his knee
know.
joint.
Yeah.
So he had them cut basically and realigned, and I don't know, whatever you would do as a surgeon to make that happen.
Wow.
But the thing that really stood out, I mean, he's like an incredible figure, but the thing that stood out to me was that there was a video that he posted like 5 weeks later, which is not that long after getting a
Mhm.
major surgery like that.
Yeah.
And his wife and him had hooked his legs up to like a giant ab wheel roll. There was some
Whoa.
type of, they hooked his ankles up like with boots to an ab wheel roll.
Cool.
So the wheel was like on this little box that was the same height as a treadmill. And then he had his arms on the treadmill, and he was getting his mileage in on his
That's
arms
cool.
on the treadmill.
That's great.
And then, of course, he like got off camera and was like cursing and calling everyone a bitch and
Right. Right. Yeah. Of
like
course.
normal David Goggins
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
But that made me realize, like, on a different level, I've always been pretty stubborn, just like you have, about like, whatever cards my body gives me, I'm always generally willing to train.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, like in
That's
some capacity, but that gave me a different mindset to be
yeah,
like, I don't care what's taken away from me. Like, there is a way to train.
for
Like, I might
sure.
have only one leg or only one arm, but there's some sort of option, and that was hugely, like, valuable for me.
I mean, I see that in you every fucking day. I mean, and that's how like the reverse hyper was invented too, right? Like
Yep.
the West Side Barbell guy, like
Yeah.
he needed to
Yeah, you bust his back
bust
up.
his back and he still had to train lower body, and that's like I try to remember that I'm like when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm sad, when I'm hurting, like that's when you discover real things you haven't before.
Yeah,
Like
that's
when
true.
I'm comfortable, I'm not making good art. I mean, I'm making it's fine,
I know what you mean.
like, but it's like when your dad died, like that hit me, man.
Yeah.
And the only way that I knew how to grieve was to make something, and
Yeah.
I spent a lot more time than I had on that painting because
Yeah.
I needed to,
Yeah.
and I recently got a painting commission for different figure painting, and it ended up fine. I liked it okay, and I had to really push myself to work on it because I didn't want to as much, but
Yeah.
but like I didn't care about it the way I care about yours,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, and I think it's the source of damage. From damage can come really grand things,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's just like a life death thing,
Yeah.
and part of our training too is you push yourself to intensity. You get
Yeah.
tattooed until you're wrecked. You're gonna end up on the other side with something great.
That's
And,
true.
and that's worth it in the end. And not saying that you have to suffer to make
Yeah.
something worthwhile, which I thought was the case for a long time. I pushed myself to that.
It can get
I was,
confusing, right?
I was
Because,
so mean to
a lot of good
myself.
things can come from that,
Yeah,
and then sometimes you can mistake it as being, like, the only way good things come from that is from,
yeah,
having that initial bad thing happen to you or
yeah,
whatever. But, yeah, no, there's so many things you just said that my brain is, like, just totally, upside down right now, but
yeah.
with the painting, um, you spent, like, 50 hours on that thing,
I did.
right?
I logged it. I don't know why, but I wanted to know.
No, I mean, I'm glad you
Yeah,
did, because it's just it's like an added element to the story when I don't, so I think you're gonna like this, but I don't tell everyone what that painting is.
yeah,
So, and it's not anything against anyone. It's just that I only tell the people that I feel like I'm on a certain level with,
yeah,
what that is.
yeah.
So, like if just some Dave fee comes in, that'd be awkward anyways. But like if
Right.
Dave fee comes in or a new
Yeah,
member, I don't tell them what it is.
yeah,
I might know someone for a couple of years. I'm not gonna tell them who
yeah.
it is. But if I
If
get,
they ask, that's different too.
yeah, if they ask,
Yeah,
100%. But there's certain people that like I just will eventually tell them about because I know them, trust them. I think that they have a brain that's, like gonna be willing to hear me out for like 30 seconds and
yeah,
and also understand what you did to make that happen.
yeah.
And I think that also, was it the frame that you had for a long time that you used for that? It wasn't.
So the stretcher bars I made myself when I was in school, and I
That's what
made
it was.
it's 5 by 3 feet crossbars and
Yeah.
dado cuts, and it was pretty high speed for me as far as process goes, like
Yeah.
because with stretcher bars they've got to be on point. It's got to be square as fuck, and the angles have got to be all right.
And why
Because
is that? Because the frame will look crooked
it'll be
when
crooked,
you're
and then
done.
also the canvas has to only sit on the edge. So, like,
Mm,
if you think about it, the inside is cut on an angle so that it's only sitting on like a couple of the millimeters.
interesting. No
And
one thinks
again,
about that when you look at like a piece of art,
Yeah, I wouldn't have known either until
you
I had to make
she's
it
like, "Oh, yeah,
myself.
just,
Yeah.
like, wraps" like, this is gonna make you
Yeah.
crazy probably, but,
Yeah.
like, the general it just, like, wraps around and
Yeah,
stapled
yeah.
back there or some
Well,
shit,
you never
and it's
know.
like
I mean, if something's done well, then you don't see the seams,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
so I made those stretcher bars and I had a and I unstretched the painting that was on it and restretched it with canvas, like, so it's like every single other than, like, knitting the canvas, I made every part of that painting, so
And you also had to paint part of it upside down,
yeah,
right?
it's just too tall, yeah, but also,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
when you're essentially, like, working from I don't know, like, something that large scale, you look at it and you're cross-eyed after a while, so changing your perspective on it, like,
Uh,
turning things upside down was something I was taught really early on too, but
huh.
yeah, it was, like, too tall, I couldn't reach it out of a ladder that f
'Cause it's on the
tall.
easel like, it's on the easel, is that why? Is that what it's called? Or, like,
Yeah, yeah, it's
what
an
is it
easel.
sitting on?
I just had it on I put just nails in the brick wall or screws in the brick wall and
Ah,
had the cross brace sitting on that, but then I would put it on the floor so that I could reach the
mm,
top of it,
that's
and
crazy.
then turn it sideways 'cause I'm 5'2" and it's 5 foot, so I
That's
couldn't
so insane that it's a technique to,
Yeah,
like, turn it upside down
yeah,
because I feel like that'd be so hard to, like, continue what you've already begun, like, with one
yeah,
frame of mind, and
yeah,
now everything's upside down, everything is, like, rotated, it's on different sides now,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
it's upside down.
mhm.
But you
I
just
mean,
follow what you've already begun, right?
and the reference material is mostly what you follow
Ah,
because that's really
I
what
see.
kind of fucks you up is like I'm trained to paint from life. I'm fine art trained.
Mm,
Like, so I'm like, you're painting a face and you're like, all right, this is a fucking nose. I'm gonna paint this nose. So you think about every nose that you've ever seen your whole life and you're like, it's a triangle, there's holes here. But
yeah,
if you're looking at the photo, you're looking at the image in front of you, it's very
interesting.
rarely a fucking triangle. It's a collection of other shapes. So
Ah,
to help your brain with that, you turn it upside down so it doesn't look like a face anymore. It's just space.
so when you were
I painted your dad's face upside down. There's a time lapse I included in the post on it that I was like, I cannot fuck this up. And this is the thing I can't fuck up. So like
yeah,
you did the broad strokes upside down because, especially because he's wearing glasses and the
yeah,
reflection of his eyes in there. And it was like kind of a
yeah,
complicated thing. And so I did the broad strokes upside down and then
yeah,
turned it
yeah,
right
yeah,
upright to like look and make sure it was him in the eyes,
yeah.
you know?
And you know this, but other people, like, listening to this might not know, but so the painting was based off of a photo that you had gotten, and it was actually, a photo that I took of my dad when we were doing the build out of literally the space we're sitting in right now.
Yeah.
Um, and, essentially, when we took the space over to build it out, I mean, you walked through it
Yeah. Yeah.
when we first got it, and
Yeah.
it was, I'd say
Rough.
a mess.
Yeah.
And when we got access to this doorway back here, when we finally, took everything off the walls and everything off the ceiling, we essentially saw some of the bones of the building and what we were dealing with. And I'll just say that the doorway wasn't safe for a
Yes, it
lot of
was.
reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into why, just so
Yeah.
I don't get myself or anyone else in some shit, but it was bad. So my dad, he was as far as manual labor goes or work, he was never afraid of anything. He wasn't afraid to not go to sleep. I mean, I saw that man stay up for 3 days at a time for various different reasons,
I believe it.
different jobs,
Yeah.
different emergencies, things like that. He was never afraid of taking on a task. He didn't know how to do it. So if he wasn't skilled in that department, he didn't give a
He
shit.
had learned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
And I really, really love that because it's very hard to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want to break something and call someone embarrassed and,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. But so we essentially rebuilt the doorway, and my dad's not a mason. I'm definitely not a mason, and I'm not a construction guy, and I haven't done manual labor like that in like 15, probably no, 20 years. So it was kind of worrisome for me to want to do that too.
Yeah.
And we were super miserable. I don't know how long we were into the build out, but I think we were already, I don't know, probably 10 months in, and actually probably a year and a half. The build out lasted 3 years. We thought we were going to do it in a year.
Jeez.
But we were probably a year and a half into it. And, I still worked my normal hours. I still lifted, still went to jujitsu. So I was miserable way more than normal. And my dad was driving up from my hometown, to visit, but he was mostly coming here
To
to
work. I
to
remember.
work.
Yeah. I think there are days where you're like, I haven't even seen him. He just came in and started working.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so we were never like at that point in our lives, we were never cranky to each other.
Yeah.
We never mistreated each other.
Yeah.
We were never mean anymore. And, when I was younger and my dad was like working 3 jobs,
Yeah.
we had some rough relationship issues. It had nothing to do with us personally. It was just circumstantial.
Right.
But, so we never mistreated each other at this point, but we were both miserable,
Mhm.
both deathly tired, just fucking over it. And for some reason, I just like was standing in the jujitsu side and I said, "Hey dad, uh, show me your arms like flex for some reason or whatever." And he was such an animated character.
Yeah.
And as hard of a worker he was, and as sometimes as much of a scary person as he was in life, he also was very funny and comical and just loved being silly and goofy.
Yeah.
He just threw his arms up and did like a
Just
double
flex.
bicep pose in his like sweatpants,
Yeah.
orange crew neck, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Gloves on or what, I don't know. And it's just funny because there's like electrical cords all over the
Mhm.
ground, which
Yeah.
um yeah, you really altered that picture into a way that was very cool. You know, I think you took there was a broomstick leaning up against the wall that you
Mhm.
turned into an axe.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then the electrical cords, they're still like electrical cords, but you kind of made them look like, to me, almost like snakes or just
Yeah.
something like, I don't
Sure.
know, like,
I just took liberties with the shape of them to complement what was going on,
yeah,
and that's sort of what you do with I mean, anybody can copy a photo, like, there's a certain
yeah,
process to it, very formulaic, but
yeah,
for it what's the point of copying a photo if you're not gonna bring something new to it?
that's true.
So,
I guess it's like a cover song and maybe you cover it,
yeah.
but it's just the same song. And so it's like, cool, you borrowed a song for someone.
And so the
Yeah.
problem I faced was that that picture of your dad was perfect. Like, it was perfect. It was sentimental and funny and sweet and brutal,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just as he is, as I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I tried to do was bring all those things together and sort of illuminate him as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned the frame because that's the secondary most important part of the painting to me from him is that's the most figure paintings I've done have been like my friends as saints. And so like whether it's a molding of a door
Mhm.
or like a window frame or, you know, it's part of like the illumination of saints structures, like if you're looking at like especially Byzantine type paintings,
Yeah.
all those guys have a nice gold shape, and so I
That's true.
squared that thing up and the color in that is this also the most vibrant thing that your dad
Yeah.
and is in the rust and
Yeah.
the decay of
Yeah.
that, and but it's like framing out him out,
Yeah.
illuminating him, and then the halo,
Yeah.
the Rockwell halo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like because that's also what came from him,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
this place came from him as well.
Yeah, I really don't think that this place would be what it was had not like well, and my mom as well,
Yeah, of
like
course, yeah,
especially with like my dad passing, a lot of times I'll catch myself like always talking about my dad, like if he's the only person that raised me,
yeah,
you just get fixated on shit.
yeah,
But had I not been raised by my parents the way that I was, and if my dad and my mom to an element too, if they had not forced me to start working since I was 12, like I don't think I started getting paid working for my dad until I was like 15 or 16. So it
oh
was like
yeah,
3 years of just like unpaid labor
unpaid labor.
just because like you lived in
Yeah,
the house you live in,
yeah,
and then he
yeah,
started paying me like a little bit and I got better later. But
yeah,
if they had not raised me and made me work the way that they did, I don't think this place would be what it is. Like it might be here,
absolutely,
but it probably wouldn't look anything like it. It would be totally different,
yeah,
and who knows if it would be here,
yeah.
because of that too.
Getting to know you all separately, it is clear you're the second generation of that man. See, like
Yeah,
how hard he worked and
it's
how,
scary. Even
yeah,
for me, there's things, especially as I get older, things that I say, joke around with people, even how I talk to, we have like the new kitten, like
yeah,
how I talk to my cat. I'll
yeah,
hear my dad's voice and the way I talk to my cat, and I can hear his voice, the way he talked to our cats at home when I was a kid. It's fucked up.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but
I know
there's
exactly
no
what you
getting
mean.
away from that. And it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Um, talk to me about your parents really quick because, I know that generally speaking, you and I are very different from the average person.
yeah,
We have a lot of different life choices, a lot of different interests.
mhm,
Like you and I are generally not going to the grocery store
yeah,
without standing out like a sore thumb, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, and so like we're talking about my dad and how there's a lot of similarities, right? And I know, your mom, you told me a lot about your dad. So I know them to a degree as well. And there are those similarities there, but we're also extremely different from them.
yeah,
And so like what was your sort of upbringing like? And how do you think that you ended up on the path that you're on, coming from like growing up in Kentucky and like, and I know your mom's background with art a little bit and
yeah,
like the work she did. I'll probably have you explain it
sure,
again, just,
yeah.
so I have it right. But Um, it's a pretty big deviation from, like, that upbringing, I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
that's yes.
And you've also told me a little bit about, like, your childhood and growing up as well, so I know there's bits and pieces of it, but, yeah, like, how did this all happen from where you started in Kentucky and how you were being brought up to getting here? Because it's a pretty major change if I remember it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I have a lot to be grateful for. My mom's an amazing person. She was one of 4 daughters, born in Louisville, Kentucky, and, their job was, like, to find husbands. Their job was to only date Lutheran boys and find husbands, like, as they grew up, but
Yeah.
my mom, drew and painted and, she just had, she had that urge. That wasn't something that you, like, necessarily coax kids into for a career at any
Yeah.
in general, but especially at that time,
Yeah.
and so she just found her way, and ended up getting a Master of Fine Arts, specifically in printmaking, and
Yeah.
so she, had graduated and was done with all that when we were kids, but she did like still did some etching,
Yeah.
and copperplate etching specifically, which is what
Yeah.
I've named my shop for. Because like
Yeah.
when I was a kid, she would be like drawing landscapes. She'd just be like going to the park, just doing some drawing, and I'm like, "Can
Yeah.
I do what you're doing?" Like, and so it's like
How old are you then?
there's photos of me at 4,
Yeah.
drawing
Sounds like
next.
you were very, very, very young,
Yeah,
like, in the way
yeah,
that you said that, so
yeah,
that's really cute.
yeah. And anytime people will be like, "What did you do?" And mom's like, "She just wanted to be with me. She just wanted to do what I was doing." And so
Yeah.
that's what it was. And then they just were wonderful about fostering that interest for me.
Yeah.
They put me in like outside of school programs,
Yeah.
and like, and any chance she could, she taught me things, I mean,
Yeah.
she was a teacher as well. And
Yeah.
I also saw her get treated not so well, which is
Yeah.
another reason I decided not to be a teacher. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was another part of me being like, well, I want to do what you do. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, wait, you're not happy,
Yeah.
in that same way, because
Definitely.
she, like, has openly said to me that she went to college to find a husband, and she got married pretty young to my dad, who ended up not being so great in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
and she, would never have altered that trajectory, but I know I saw her being not happy for a lot of
Yeah.
years, to put it mildly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I can see how that would springboard you into, like,
I was like, "Nope, not doing that."
yeah, it's kind of a clear,
Yeah,
well, maybe not for everyone, but,
yeah,
for you, you're not afraid to just kinda go off on your own way
yeah,
and figure it out, and,
yeah,
that's really interesting, I could definitely see the artistic background.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and that's something I would never try to separate myself from, but, like, you know, suburban life in Kentucky is something I absolutely left, and very
yeah.
intentionally, and
Yeah, yeah,
I'm one of the only people in my family who have done that,
yeah.
so
Yeah, I always, have a funny joke with, like, the city of Chicago. I'm sure you can relate to this too, because I know that you're, very much like an introvert, in a lot of situations.
yeah,
But so anytime, like, I get overwhelmed here and then, like, leave, I'm like, "Oh my god, I can breathe," right? And then it doesn't matter where I'm at. It's like, unless I'm on, like, a crazy vacation somewhere, but if it's, like, somewhere in the States, or whatever, I'll be there for, like, 48 hours or 72 hours, and I'm
yeah,
like, "Dude, I gotta get back to the shit, man. I wanna,
yeah.
like, hear the loud ass CTA, and I want, like, a homeless guy to yell at me, I want, like, to, get stuck in traffic, get
Yeah,
pissed about, like, I just like being in the mess. And even though it has its annoyances and inconveniences, I know that I don't have that possibility of being in the middle of nowhere and
mhm,
losing my fucking mind,
yeah,
because that's, like, a real possibility, and I don't mean, like, in a mental, like, unstable way, I just mean that, like, losing myself, ending up doing something I shouldn't be doing,
yeah,
being around people that maybe I shouldn't be around or whatever,
sure.
and it's just, like, that's definitely the better option, to just be like, "I'm out of here. I'm gonna go through this and make
I
my
mean,
own thing."
part of that, I think, is that we need people to do what we do. Like, I mean, granted, you and I will be totally fine if we have to be on a desert island alone,
Yeah.
ever,
Yeah.
but, like, people will be like, "Why did you move to Chicago?" And I'm like, "Well, 1, to get out of Kentucky, and
Yeah.
2, like, you wanna live and work in the arts or in any kind of alt lifestyle, be in a big city." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so, like, surrounding ourselves with people we can learn from, people we can teach, and,
Yeah.
like, constantly wanting more information and more
Yeah.
growth and from other folks is you have
Yeah.
to be around a lot of people. I mean,
Yeah.
I often need to bolt from the city and just be in nature and not be
Yeah.
around anyone at all,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
at the same time, I just can't Not,
Yeah.
even when I was a kid, I would never people are like, "What do you like to draw?" And I'm like, what do you want? What's gonna make you happy? What do you wanna see right now? Can I draw
So
a cat for you?" Drew a lot of cats as a kid. I have, like, a cat cartoon book I
yeah, yeah.
I was in 3rd grade or
That
something.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as like living in the city and having that, um, it's not like a brutal competition, but there are a lot of people here doing a lot of things, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people here that are very skilled.
Yes.
And so when you start something, even if it's a restaurant or even if it's whatever, a hair salon, you have to acquire skills quickly,
Mhm.
and you have to fix your mistakes immediately,
Yeah, yeah.
or you're just not going to be good and you're probably not going to make it. So I'm pretty thankful for being in this city for those reasons. Um,
It's living that sponge life, man. You
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing too is we were talking the other day and we were training about your ring,
Yeah.
and you were mentioning sort of like information, a little bit ago. And as far as like using that thing goes, you've brought it up to me several times in the training sense, just to tell me like, hey, this is where my recovery's at today, or last couple weeks it wasn't that good and it's starting to get better. And I think that's why my lifts are looking pretty good today.
Yeah.
And I told you that I've been pretty interested in it. And I think I will probably pursue that at some point, mostly because I've been trying to change my outlook a little bit on what being healthy means. I've
Yeah.
always tried to eat right, and then obviously like train, take care of myself in that sense. But there's a different there's a different level of getting dialed in with
Yeah.
those kind of like metrics and all that shit.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about like using the ring and then just other things in life that you've adjusted to like stay healthy and
Yeah.
focus on your health, because I know that like you really take a lot of that seriously, and that wasn't something that was um, done overnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've made a lot of changes over the years to get to this point, and I just wanted to like get kind of your experiences with those things, for myself selfishly, but also for
Sure.
other people that like don't know what a ring is and
Yeah.
they're not paying attention to their sleep and
Yeah. Well, I have the smart ring, which does a lot of the same most of the same things as, like, an iWatch, a smartwatch would do.
mm,
But what's nice about it is you don't have a screen on you at all times, you have
mm,
the data for later. The
yeah,
metrics are there for you to study at another time.
yeah.
Also, smart watches don't work on tattooed skin is a thing. Like, you
Oh
have
yeah,
to I
yeah, yeah.
used
I
to
remember you
have
saying
one.
that.
Yeah, it won't, like, sense your heart rate, it won't give you sleep data,
Yeah.
so I have a having the data has been, like, really helpful and
Hmm.
validating because
Yeah.
I'll be wake up in the morning and I'm like, "You know what? I don't feel great today. I don't feel great. I don't know if I wanna do all the things. I can do some of the things," and then I'm like, "You know what? I'm gonna see checking on my metrics. Is my heart rate doing what it's supposed to?
Yeah.
Is my HRV where it's supposed to be?" And then
Yeah.
I'll look at it and it's like, "Hey, you didn't sleep so great. Here are the times you got up. Here's what your heart rate was doing.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not doing so great?" So I'm
Yeah.
not, like, deluding myself to, doing what it's telling me to do, but I am like, here's some
Yeah.
firm data that says,
Yeah.
hey, take it the fuck easy,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like so often I will push myself in ways that I shouldn't,
Yeah.
be like, do I not want to do this because I'm sad? Do I not want to do this because it's hard? Or am I like legitimately tired and
Yeah.
I need rest,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because it's hard to figure out sometimes,
yeah,
and there's been a lot of times where I've been in the gym or working, mostly in the gym, like actually lifting, but it's been like, man, I'm not trying that hard today. Or I
yeah,
just, like mentally not there. I always try to find some blame for why I'm not performing if I'm not,
exactly.
because I'm
Yeah,
used to performing. I'm used to
right.
coming in and doing exactly what I planned that day because it was thought about, executed, it was programmed, and then come to find out like the next day, I'm like, I'm sick.
Yeah,
Like I'm
right.
actually, I
Yeah,
didn't know that I had the flu and
yeah,
I didn't even know it was coming on
yeah,
because I'm so wired in on doing what I plan on doing, or caffeinated, or,
yeah.
whatever, that I don't even allow the possibility for me to be like, do I not feel
Do
good?
I not feel it? Exactly.
So that
Yeah,
that sort of report you're getting from technology is really awesome, because if you see those kind of things, it gives you, it's not like an out necessarily the way I read it, but it gives you the thought of like, okay, well, this is low. And if I did the other things right, why is this seemingly fucked up?
exactly.
And then you can ask yourself, like, am I sick?
Yeah,
Or did I stop taking a supplement
yeah,
that I was taking for a while that I had to not take now? Like,
yeah,
it just gives you a little bit more, like choice in the matter. And so I'm sure that what I know about you is a lot of times you make yourself do things if you don't feel good or not because you have to get it done that day.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to do everything. It doesn't mean
Right.
you have to like run yourself into the ground and now you miss 6 days of life
Yeah.
because you didn't think about it,
Yeah.
which you know me very well. I've done
Yes.
that a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm getting better about it now, but I'm interested in having something that would help me get ahead of that because I can't afford to lose 48 hours of work
Yeah.
or lifting or whatever.
So another way I think young you and me were similar. It's somebody's like, "Don't do that," and you're like, "You know what? Fuck you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna really do it now."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And part of that is us yelling at our bodies in that way. Where our body's like, "Hey, maybe you should skip the run today."
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
for
for
your long
sure,
term recovery.
for sure.
Maybe you should not. And so it's helped me really listen to myself,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
in terms of what are the facts?
yeah,
Like, stop, take a deep breath,
yeah,
check out what's actually happening, and then proceed mindfully,
yeah,
is what those stand for. And I try to apply that everywhere because I so often have not, and I've just been hard on myself. So
yeah. Well, and I think like sometimes the people telling you to do those things, your behaviors and actions make them uncomfortable.
yeah,
So sometimes they'll tell you to not do things because they wouldn't do it, right?
right.
But then there's other people like you. You're an example in my life that like you genuinely care about me and want me to take care of myself,
I do. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And there's a handful of other people that I know too that will tell me, "Hey, you shouldn't do that."
Yeah.
like
Because
like TJ like last Friday, I was like, "Oh, I forgot to do some shit and I'm back. I'm only gonna be here for like 20 minutes." He goes, "You know damn well you're gonna be here for an hour, hour and a half." He's like, "You should go home or
yeah.
whatever."
Yeah.
Sure enough, I went out there to like grab something an hour and a half later and he goes,
Yep.
"Hey,"
Hey, still here, huh?
and he's not saying anything necessarily, but that's TJ's way of being like, "Dude, go the
Yeah.
fuck home.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. Stop doing this. Every day doesn't have to be 10 to 15 hours. It's okay to work 8 or 10,
Yeah.
like, um, so I've been trying to pay attention to why people are telling me things. And
Mhm.
if they really care about me,
Yeah.
like just try to listen, man,
Right.
and then obviously there's going to be people that are going to tell me not to do stuff because they'd really like to be at home on the couch, like eating Fruit Loops
Yeah.
and playing video games
Yeah.
all day, every day. And not that that shit's not rad, but you
It's the
can't do it all
source of
day, every day, like,
right.
um,
It's like the source of that information is very
yeah,
important, and
yeah,
so often people will push back on your plans based on something of their own
yeah,
that, so,
yeah,
like my dad didn't want me to get into tattooing because it would make him look bad to his peers, and so but once, he started understanding it as a business, that got better, but, people would
yeah,
be like, "Why don't you drink?" I mean, I drink, or what some people will say,
yeah,
you know
yeah, yeah. It's funny, right? Like how once the results are there,
Yeah,
then it becomes a little bit more acceptable.
yeah,
And I don't hold anything against anyone. I could see why people would think those things sometimes,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I wouldn't think that.
yeah,
I don't give a shit what people do. I'm like,
yeah,
as long as you're doing something and you're into it,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
But, I've had people mention things to me and even to Katie, like, "Oh, you're a trainer?" Like, I don't think trainers like really make that much money, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and whether or not we
Yeah.
are or not, it's just a
Yeah.
funny thing to say,
Yeah.
and then it makes me want to be like, huh, you think that I don't like make any money? Like,
Yeah.
and I may never think about that person again, but like how hard I work the next day changes because
Yeah.
it like
Yeah.
piss me off,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and I'm like,
Yeah, right?
all right, man, well,
Alright, cool.
sure.
And that's part of that is that, the person validating their own choices, being like,
Yeah.
"Well, I don't think you should do that because I didn't do that, and I'm right." You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
while as someone like TJ being, "Hey, you should go home," is your friend being like, "Hey, I want you to be nice to yourself because I would be nice to you too."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's yeah, just considering the source and that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
No, 100%. Well, this was amazing to do. I definitely plan on, doing another podcast with you again.
Yeah, I'd love
And
to.
it's nice to actually hang out with you and talk when you're not tattooing my neck or like, I'm not making you do workouts
Yeah.
that, you always want to do it, but, I might make you do it a certain way and you're like, no, God,
Oh
please no.
god, there aren't, like, gallons of adrenaline involved for
Yeah,
either of us,
yeah,
yeah.
but, no, it was rad, and like I've already said it, but I appreciate everything you do for me, the gym, my friends, my family, just the way you take care of all of us, and, getting up on a Saturday after a long, work week
Yeah.
and, making this happen, so
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I say this often, but it's my honor. I'm honored to be here and to know you and to be a part of this place.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.